Hi everyone, Elaine Beck here, and it's not about us, that's our show, but we're on CPAC now. And we are so grateful today to have my buddy here. We're nice and close today so we can talk and be personal. Love it. And Matt Schlapp, who is the president of CPAC. And he has been touring around the world on a few things. And I think it's sort of fascinating, the fact that President Biden was just out of the country at the G6, came back, and had a, what do they call it, Matt? A
press conference,
press conference. It was a mess,
yeah, it was
if I recall. I did watch it, and so we really don't get a picture ever of what people outside the country think of us. And it's so wonderful that CPAC is now so international. So we're going to talk about the couple places he's been recently and what he's heard about what the people in other countries really think of us and what they think of the way our president's handling things. What do you think?
I love it. Fire away.
All right. Well, let's start with your first trip. Where was that?
We had CPAC Australia.
That's right.
You were going to come with me.
Yes.
But because you've been on so many of these trips with us. But it was fascinating to go to Australia because they're facing some of the similar problems we have here. They have a center-right party. It's their liberal party. In a lot of parts of the world, liberal and conservative have opposite meanings than they do here.
Right,
but,
right.
when we call our folks rhinos because
right.
they're not holding the line in things we care about.
Sure.
They have linos, which is really funny. So they have.
Is that limeys?
Yeah, something like that. Liberals in name only, so they have the same problem with the coronavirus craziness and the lockdowns, which Australia had it the worst. They would arrest people, they would beat them, they would lock them in their houses.
Oh my goodness.
Really terrible. So there's a big pushback on why that party was in power. Their version of the Republican Party was in power, went along with all the Fauci policies, took it to the extreme, and then the grassroots of their party got really bad. And for Australia, which has a reputation for kind of like just a come see, come saw attitude, go along.
Right.
They kind of had enough. And so what you see at CPAC Australia and what we see in a lot of these countries is a growing, burgeoning conservative movement that is mad about transgenderism of kids. They're mad about lockdowns. They're mad about vaccine mandates. They're mad about China. They're mad about what's going on with the social media companies and the throttling and the shutting down their ability to freely speak. They're mad about what's going on with Bolsonaro in Brazil. They're mad about what's going on with Trump here in America.
Gee, it sounds like us.
It does. It does. So when you think that CPAC is losing its focus because we're not focusing on America first, which we are, understand that we're also at the same time using our American experience to help with our allies in these other countries make similar fights. Sometimes they're fighting better than us. Sometimes we're fighting better with them. We share information, we work together, and we give each other hope.
Well, see, that's just it. That's what I was going to say. I think it's so great when we get to do shows like this and we talk about, like when we went to Hungary, okay, seeing what they do about family matters versus what we do. Because we all around this world really have the same issues, okay?
Same issues.
But how do we deal with them differently? What can we learn from other countries? And one of the things that I think really stands out is when you talk about the fact that they had all the lockdowns and stuff, and yet they're talking about doing that again in the United States. What do you think? We just stand up and say no?
I like that idea. I also always had this kind of fantasy that we would all get tickets on a flight, the same flight, and all say that we won't put our masks on at the same time.
I think that's a really good idea.
I think if this starts happening again with the airlines.
All right, I'm with you.
The left always kind of telegraphs what they're going to do through movies and shows since they run all those, but we're kind of telegraphing through CPAC now. I think I'm going to call my CPAC buddies.
Yeah.
And we're all going to get on the same flight.
Right.
From New York to Washington, D.C. or whatever.
Well, we should do several.
And we'll put our masks on, and then 5 minutes after we're in the air, we're all going to take them off, and very politely, with a spirit of compassion, explain that we're not putting them back on. And I think if there was enough examples of people who who will simply say very politely, and with knowing the law, that we don't need to comply with this. And by the way, it doesn't hurt anybody's health. We're not doing anything risky.
No.
I think it would give
it was all our choice.
It would give people who are almost there but a little bit nervous because they have something to lose, or their kids might yell at them, or their parents might yell at them if they're kids.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone get a little more bold and a little more hope and do the right thing.
Yeah.
You think that could happen?
I think it could happen.
Is this a good idea?
I think it's a good idea.
Would you buy a ticket?
I would.
I would too. Okay, so we have two people.
The two of us will fly.
I think Veronica will do it. I think we'll have some others. Yeah.
Are you kidding? If we right now, I don't want to scare you.
Yeah.
But if right now on this show, we would say to everybody, contact CPAC if you're interested in buying one of the tickets.
Yeah.
We'd fill all the airs.
I think that's right. That's right. And the airlines would sell extra seats too.
There
so
you
go.
go.
For everybody.
They'd all be ready to do it because we're all so. We know that we're supposed to be free. That's what God tells us. That it's all about freedom of religion, freedom of compassion, and doing the right thing, and loving one another, and being close to each other, and making our own choices about that. I have nothing against anybody who says, I have a health issue, I really feel more comfortable with that mask on. By all means, individually make your choices. That is so important. We all have a right to our own choices.
And I've had women tell me they love the mask because when they got up in the morning, they didn't have to worry about their makeup and everything else. They just put on the mask. Hey, whatever your reason for wearing that mask, go for it. This is America.
Yeah, but I'm so used to putting on makeup. I'd put the makeup on, put the mask on.
You're right.
It's why I say it's individual. Please, people, understand that we're not saying that, if you have a real reason, a comfort reason, whatever it is, that you want to wear that mask, that's fine. Just like with our church. Our pastor already got up 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, and said that, rumors going around that they might have shutdowns again, they might close things and stuff. But he said, I'm telling you right now today, if that happens, remember, our church will always be open.
Yeah.
You can always come unmasked. If you want to wear a mask, we will respect it. You can always sit 6 feet apart if that's what you choose. But if you want to sit next to each other, that's fine too. We're just saying we'll be here, we'll be open for every service. You make your own choice. I think that's the way life should be.
Well, first of all, he's a very good man, a good pastor. I've had the occasion to talk with him. And one of the things I talked about, I was also invited by the Sansei Party in Japan, which is a new grassroots.
Yeah, and that's where you were for a visit and speaking, right?
Yeah, and look, the word conservative, even in American politics, it kind of became fashionable again maybe in the 50s, 60s, and people started to understand this term. CPAC had a big role in explaining, what conservatism means. And it has a lot to do with the individual having the ability to govern themselves.
Right.
Use the freedom God gives them, not government, but God gives them.
Exactly.
And so, we take this term and these ideas and we go overseas and talk about them. But the Sansei Party invited me to be the only foreigner to speak to their convention. It was thousands of really wonderful Japanese patriots.
Right.
And they have really interesting issues. One of them is that they didn't like the lockdowns either, and they thought it was bad for their kids, and they really have become more dubious on the vaccine, which surprised me because in most of the Asian cultures we're dealing with, they have such a health focus. They're so much more healthy than me. They eat good and everything else, and they're in such perfect shape. But they really examine the vaccine, and they're skeptical of it, and that's becoming a growing movement in these other countries, countries where I thought that would never happen. So you're right, it is similar themes, and what I love is that when you're speaking in another language, and that happens in a lot of these countries we go to. Brazil, Portuguese, not a lot of people speak Portuguese. Even my wonderful wife, who's fluent in Spanish, and that was her first tongue. Portuguese is tough. And but obviously in Japan, I know like 3 words. And don't ask me what they are. But you say Trump, you say transgender, you say fake news. You say these things, and everyone cheers before the translation is done in their ear. Like there's an understanding that what America is going through is going to hit their streets next.
Amen.
Sometimes it hits their streets first. They experiment in one of these smaller countries, but they know it's coming to them, and it's frightening to them. They're like, if this can happen in America, the number one thing that response I get when I'm overseas is, how did it get so bad in America so fast? And I think you and I feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I hear you saying, and I love this, especially for the young people. We need to speak up more and let people know that these young people are being told we're a bad country, we're evil, we've done awful things, they shouldn't be proud of it and stuff. Well then, why is it people in other countries, and I've been now to France, and I went to Hungary, I've been to many places, you've been to many places, we always hear the same thing. We want to be like America. We want to have, we shouldn't have our borders open to begin with. Why would all these millions of people want to trudge for days, weeks, months to get here if we're awful? Please, people, understand. I can't wait. We're going to do CPAC Japan in December, right?
That's right. And if you want to go with us to CPAC Japan, just get on our website, give us a call in the office. It's going to be, Tokyo is an amazing city. I think it's 13, 15 million people in the city, 30 million in the area around it. Think about that.
Yeah.
30 million people. Guess what happens when you show up in Tokyo at the airport? They have two big airports. Neither one of them look like JFK or LaGuardia. Clean, organized, working efficiently. You go out into the city, you don't see a lot of homeless people. You don't see a lot of drug-addled people just kind of falling over. It's like, we've got a real problem in this country when we look at our cities. Don't assume that's happening everywhere in the globe. Yes, there's similar problems all over the globe, but like our cities are particularly a marketing example to the world about how broken we are. And I think it's a wake-up call for Americans. It's not normal to have so many tent cities with people that are not functioning. So we have to ask ourselves, why is that happening?
And really, that was something that from the time I was a little girl, we heard, to be proud of your country, to stand for the flag, to love the fact that, we are, other countries look to us. They still do. But they have all these questions now, like, why aren't we the same? And what are we doing about it? And that's so important, and that's why I'm really proud. I got to tell you this, Matt. This is for everybody to hear. I am so proud to be affiliated with CPAC.
Oh, that's
It's
nice.
one of my greatest gifts is to be respected by the people, you and Mercy especially, and everybody else involved in CPAC, to be able to know all of you, to be going around the world with you, to know that what you're doing is touching so many hearts in this country and around the world. It's really an honor.
Well, it's an honor for us too. Think about it, for Mercy and I, it's quite an honor to be affiliated with CPAC as well. What a great history it has.
Amen.
And what a great future it'll have. But I think CPAC's future is much like America's future. There's a little bit of a question mark in all of our minds.
Absolutely.
How much longer do we have? How much more can we take in terms of all these problems and all this division? And we do have to find a way to bind it up.
Yeah.
We have to find a way to bind up the wounds. We have to find a way to disagree with each other without it becoming a wholesale destruction of the person on the other side politically.
Right.
And too much of that's going on.
Right. Well,
by the way, it's not happening in other countries either. It's too much here.
As you know, we're working on something right now, a plan coming up. You're going to be hearing about it soon. Something that we're going to do around Thanksgiving of this year to maybe help all of us with God's help and only God's help to make the difference that He wants us to make so that we can go forward, not only in this country, but around the world, to make a difference and get back to God. And that, I think, is going to change it all, don't you?
Yeah, I do too. When I went to Japan, I got a text from somebody who got my number in Japan who was English proficient and just said, hey, when you come to Japan, talk about your faith. Talk about reading the Bible.
Amen.
So there is a part of CPAC which is politics, and there's a sort of part of CPAC which is policy. And there's a part of CPAC that's just like, what makes you happy?
Right.
And everyone's got different ideas of that, and we're open to the fact that everyone's voice, they should use their voice and they should speak from the heart.
Right.
But for me, I got my own opinions on these things too. So it's great in these opportunities to share what brings us joy and what matters. And that's got to be a part of the CPAC mission.
It does.
It can't just be about what the tax rate is.
No.
It's a little cold to people.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But anyways, thank you all for being here today. Thanks for stopping by and listening to Matt and I. I love hearing about...
I lost track of the time. It's my fault, Elaine. I get too comfortable with you. You were trying to stay on time.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is we don't make all that such a big deal. We just fit in what's important, don't we?
That's right.
That is the goal. So God bless you, and God bless all of you out there. Thank you for coming by the show. We'll be back soon, and as always, I'm praying for you all.